Hello, all you amazing beings out there. We are Mindfeelz, and today we are talking about empathy.
So empathy is kind of piggybacking on a lot of the things we talk about, actually, especially our most recent post about how to kind of exercise compassion and things for others. And empathy is really the root of all of that. It is, I consider it a mindset, a skill, and it's where you constantly practice seeing things from someone else's perspective and experiencing someone else's feelings and thoughts, and recognizing what is important through the lens of someone else's eyes, rather than from the outside kind of looking in, where we offer sympathy or condolences for things and we're external to that person's situation and to their experience. Empathy, you go into the experience with them. You meet someone else there where they are, and you let them know they're not alone in that place, and you can recognize what they're going through. It's something that I think just develops over time. Some people are naturally, have more, and some people you have to work a little harder. But I mean, I feel like we should talk about what you really can do to tap into your sense of empathy, and how do you build that as a skill, and what does that mean to practice that every day?
So coming, I think, from the both of us, I'd like to kind of preface this with Lauren and I are both intuitive, empathic people. So, I mean, I don't know what it's like to live a life where I haven't experienced feeling other people's feelings, grief, excitement, sadness. So I'll kind of start with this. If you're listening today and you have ever had the idea that you might be an empath, or heard the word intuit or clairvoyant, or a lot of more of the psychic sort of powers will lie
in the religious realm. There's people who are prophetic and people who are seers. You feel other people's emotions.
I think I heard having the Holy Spirit or things like that. So I think that when, so if you've experienced that before, then you probably already have this within you. So this is a theory kind of that I've been thinking about quite some time, is does everybody have the ability to be empathetic? Is it something can be taught and learned? The people that were in or are in this world who already are tapped into that stuff, are we here to help others have that as well? Is it adaptive? Is it evolutionary? Mm-hmm. Is it something that we also can, develop and teach to others? So I'm kind of under the impression that we can teach it. And I do believe that even as a gift for myself, that I was given it to teach others how to do more of it. But I don't necessarily think it would be that good for everybody to be empathic to the point of clairvoyance or psychic abilities, or because I do think we live in a society where there is still quite a bit of pain and suffering and things like that. So it's kind of evolving over time that I can see it, that we're growing into a more, and I think I've said this before, we talk about it, this society where we are being encouraged to feel, to be encouraged to understand our feelings, and children these days are definitely more feely than they once were. And I think if you look to some of the generations, they might look at it as a negative or something that's not supposed to, or that I don't know what I've heard.
It's like a weakness.
Yeah.
To be empathetic, or compassion we see as excusing someone's weakness, or but something like my mom said to me about parenting, and how you when to kind of exercise that empathy and compassion for your child, and when to discipline. And then it's what, life's hard enough on people, the world will be hard enough on you. Those intimate, close relationships, exercise more compassion and empathy, rather than that mindset of we need to toughen them up, we need to toughen each other up. We're kind of shifting over to this, we need to soften up, we need to be more aware, we need to open up, we need to be more vulnerable.
And I think there's a lot of flack, is that the right word? Negative stuff attached to that, and only from the perspective of an older community, I think. it's generational. It's like the older generations. It's like, but I do feel like we were conditioned to all of a sudden be here now. Like before we were surviving, immigrants came over here. The way that we started this whole world and how we took care of our people, it was very survival mentality. I mean, even as far back as to the caveman days, I mean, it's just much different, it was like food and water and farming and then, and surviving and then moving to another nation and doing it in that way. And now it's like you're born, you get to go to a public school that's good, you're like in a nice place, and I realize there's, we do have poor communities who maybe are still getting less advantage, but I still think we're in a nation where, we want to take care of our people. We want to get that probably poor community up to a better standard too. That's what we're fighting for. So the idea would be that, yes, we are born into this world. We do have a bunch of opportunity from the very time, we're here and we get to treat our people right. So I think that
in the places that's not happening yet, I think as a global vision, we have that awareness. Like there's a level of wanting to move past that survival, that tribal, that where people, fight for their lives. And that's not where we're at anymore. That's not the norm anymore to be like fighting for your life every day. It is for a percentage of humanity, but for the majority of humanity, it's not. And hopefully we are helping the percentage that is still in that place to get through that with our help. And I think empathy is a part of that too, breaking down those tribal kind of mentalities and that separation, because we don't need it anymore. It's not serving us the same way. We're more progressive than that. We're getting smarter.
Yeah, so I do think that we have a sensitivity amongst us, and you're going to see more empathic people just as
we're more aware of the outside world now because we are able to look into other cultures and other people and other people's lives. We see on social media there is a level of awareness of an exposure to what other people are going through.
Well, and you have a son who is, I believe, a sensitive creature, and I think do we hear that more often now? Like. That we must be changing. We're changing.
Yeah.
Lauren and I we're in the same generation. We are in the same generation, and I meet so many other intuitive, empathic people, and now those people are having children, and those children are coming out in a different way. And so, I mean, we're seeing it. I don't know that we can find numbers in specific instances, but I know in my life I'm seeing it all over, and I do pay close attention to all these different spaces. So it's changing. We're asking for more love. We're asking for more compassion. And
different conversations are happening, and it's pulling people into that level of awareness of other people's experiences and people being different than you. And if someone is more sensitive or they're going through something, to be more accepting and be more loving and be less judgmental, because I think that there's still a lot of judgment happening around, in different sectors and in different communities and in different ways. There's an element of kind of judging other people's experiences and judging other people's decisions. But I do feel like we've progressed from where I would say my parents or grandparents' generation, the level of judgment that was placed on some very simple things was pretty heavy and pretty widespread. The limitations that everyone kind of put on each other through looking at certain things as weakness or looking at certain things as inappropriate, or this person overshares. I think the age of oversharing is coming to an end because we're starting to be. Everybody shares all the time now. I mean,
oh yeah, well that's true.
We expose ourselves to people we don't even know because of social media and the internet, and the way we are able to exchange information.
Which to me only means that we must have wanted that. We must have wanted that.
We want connection.
Yeah.
We want to thrive. And if that's not your base desire to connect with other humans and you feel, anger or fear or judgment or whatever in that place, I mean, that's just healing, opportunities for healing. And connection looks different for everybody. It doesn't mean everybody needs to be totally extroverted to be empathic. I mean, that can happen on a small scale, and it can happen in an intimate way, or it can happen in a very public way. But I think I do think it's a skill. I think it's a natural part of who we are. I think I would venture to believe that pretty much every healthy, functioning human has the ability to have empathy, and that can be developed and that can be built.
So that's where we're going with this, is where can we be more empathetic? It's going to be harder to make the word up. Where can you be more empathetic in your lives? In each of us asking ourselves that, even for someone that believes they're an empath or owns that responsibility already, where can we be more empathetic, and consistently asking ourselves that and being able to practice that, and using that skill then to manage certain experiences, to make decisions, to project and create a more compassionate world in our workplaces, in our friendship circles, in our families. And what does that look like?
What does that look like? What is that in practice and in action? So it starts with, I think, awareness is kind of the beginning kind of stages of empathy, is awareness, because you have to be able to be aware of your own emotions and of someone else's emotions, and find similarities in them, and find kind of congruence between your feelings and someone else's. So that awareness.
So you're going to have to be comfortable with that.
So you have to get comfortable with your own experiences.
Which sometimes with feelings, which could be uncomfortable.
Your own emotions, and not all of them.
And other people's emotions.
So that kind of building on that, okay, now I can see what someone else is going through. So then there's the next step is that brave, vulnerable action of actually trying to connect with that person and expressing your awareness of the emotions to them. And it looks a little different for every situation, but I think Brené Brown is an excellent researcher who talks about empathy quite a bit and how important it is and what it really means. And she says that kind of the no-no phrase of empathy is "at least." So when someone has an emotion and we see it, or they express something to us, and then it's oh well, at least at least you don't have. Sometimes I get that thing from someone who maybe has more children than I do, or they don't have a partner and I do, or they don't like their partner the way that I like mine, and it's well, at least you don't have 2 kids, because that I do, and that's just it's well, it's hard for me too. And it's the same thing as looking at someone who is a single person and they're not in the same line of work or whatever, and they share with me, I'm having a really hard day today. I woke up and this was on my mind, and I'm feeling really low on myself for whatever reason. And it's well, it could be worse, because for me, when I have those days, I have to take care of everybody at the same time. At least you just have yourself to take care of, that's not too bad. That's...
So yeah, it's not comparing your situation.
You can't compare your situation when exercising.
It's very selfless, I think, if anything, because you've got to stop thinking egocentrically, at least in that moment, for sure. And I think that our society is set up to think that way. It's... Lauren said earlier, competition. I think that unfortunately it sort of goes in the other direction of a lot of this. So we've got to learn how to coexist these concepts, because we do live in a competitive society. We do have a lot of, our societal structure is competitive, just being capitalistic sort of structure, businesses, the opportunity, the American dream, it's very competitive. Our jobs are very competitive. So, how do we kind of pull away from that without, completely changing the system, but really infusing this, because then maybe the system will change just in a better way. But really learning to be, kind of be in that space for others, for that moment. It doesn't mean you take your whole life away just because for a moment I take a second to put myself in Lauren's shoes and say, wow, that is difficult, because for her, just me sitting there for a moment and giving her that space to exist there gives her healing so much more than me comparing or shutting her down or taking away from her struggles. And hopefully we move to a place where we don't need to sit around and like compare our struggles or talk too much like that. But I think empathy will help us give people the space to heal, so that we all could kind of rise up to a different place. And
it changes the way you look at your own difficulties and struggles and pain when you learn empathy for others more and you practice it more. And I think kind of that rather than comparison, acknowledgement, learning to acknowledge. And then you can also you learn to practice it more for yourself too. So it's, even though it's you're saying it doesn't dramatically take anything off the rails for me if I take a few moments, put my own situation, my own self aside, and go and put myself fully into someone else's experience and acknowledge it and just offer support, connection, and full acknowledgement. That doesn't hurt me in any way, and it really doesn't take anything from me extra. And the cool thing is it actually, I would venture to say, benefits me. Because then my own bad days, I have formed relationships around me where we have this healthy dynamic because I practice it. It's a little bit easier to go someone else, and hopefully they're more likely to practice it back with you. And also you're better at articulating and practicing for yourself, like acknowledging your own pain, acknowledging your own overwhelm or difficulty or whatever, and recognizing it and telling yourself, it's okay that I feel these things. Other people feel these things. I felt these things before, and I think it's beneficial to everybody on all sides. So even if it feels like, oh, I'm not, taking care of myself when I just take care of this other person for a moment, you are in a way getting back, these healthy mindsets to yourself that you can carry around.
So I'm listening to you, but then I'm also thinking about why it's so hard for people to do that. And I'm thinking at the same time, we live in a culture that I think just supports a more egocentric sort of, but it's got to be, that is a survivor mentality, but it's also tribal. But we also have to remember that we're all one human race, so we can call ourselves all one tribe. Yeah. So if we really want to be tribal, then really it's just
really
us
band together
against nothing else. Really, it's just us existing is kind of our only tribe to really.
We're
talk
supposed
about.
to work together to protect our world.
But we don't need to protect it.
To take care of it, and
we should be taking care of it, which would mean we were coming from a better place of empathy, which would mean we might do more things in general in a healthy place. So we're just not. I think yes, we're evolving, and we talked at the beginning about things that we are doing, but then also we're not doing things that we could be doing, and I do think that's where empathy.
We're not there yet, or we wouldn't be needing these conversations more and more. But it needs to be more of these.
I think it has to do with being uncomfortable with feelings. So we didn't talk about feelings back in the past, not that many generations ago. I don't think my mother's generation felt comfortable going to their parents about feelings. I've had feelings since I was a child, but I didn't necessarily always feel comfortable going because they were kind of brushed off in a way. And now it's as an adult, I'm still managing through feelings with therapy and working on my own things and journaling. And I talk to people about doing that and exercise and all these other ways to kind of get those feelings out. So we're digesting still feelings of the past that were ignored for a long time. And I think that's what we see a lot in our world right
culturally.
now. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So then the empathy comes in because we kind of empathize with the fact that we all kind of have been through different experiences, but we are all the same. We've probably all been through bad experiences that we could say that just because your experience looks different than mine doesn't mean that we all haven't experienced something kind of horrific, along the way. At least, if me personally, probably my ancestors or someone I know that I was able to feel into and and understand. So I think empathy has a component of understanding, it will eventually get us back to the fact that we are all one humanity, and I think that's healthy. It's going to help us treat others well, like the golden rule, do unto others as you wish done unto yourself. I mean, if we really thought that every single time we practice that, before every action,
all the time,
what do you think it would look the same as it does right now? Because as much as we all probably have heard that, are we really practicing it in every moment?
And then and then I also feel like I hear a lot of excuses amongst ourselves of, well, because I for example, I've always wanted to be successful financially. I've always wanted to have a stable income so I can take care of my family, I can take care of my family's family, I can take care of other people in need, and I have more freedom and more resources to do and make the impact that I want to make in life. And that's what I think. By the way, thank you. But I also have difficulty watching people build their success on the backs of others and making decisions that are very difficult to make, and some of them feel very unethical or unempathetic or, like not who I want to be. And I've heard it said, well, you have to do that to make it. That's what has to happen. Good people have to make those decisions all the time if they want to be successful. Sometimes you just have to step on somebody else along the way, and I just have refused that. And sometimes I wonder maybe that's why I'm where I'm at. But I also think that because we continue to buy into that falsehood that it takes the sabotage of someone else for you to grow and be successful, we're perpetuating that competitive, insecure, I can't trust anybody, and it's going to take vulnerability, it's going to take a tremendous amount of bravery to be empathetic instead of judgmental, to take chances to connect with people instead of compete with them. But somebody's got to do it. So if we just start doing it, those changes are going to begin happening. And for me, I would rather leave culturally things in a better place for Finley than I got. And I know that my mother wanted better for me than she got. And each generation, if we continue to take these steps, humanity can heal and the world can heal. And I think that's what empathy is really about, is helping someone else heal. You go with them to where their pain is, and that gives them a sense of support so they can heal it.
And it's okay to feel uncomfortable if we feel through those things. I think feeling uncomfortable with someone is so much more healing than feeling alone.
Comfortable alone, feeling
or uncomfortable
alone. Yeah. Either of those, actually.
Yeah.
It's so empathy is bigger than just, this, I get what you're going through. I've been there before. It's much bigger than that.
It's like, I think it's like you actually have to, so I'm trying to think of it since I really am an empathetic person, and I actually have to go the other direction and put walls up sometimes. Because I do feel into people so much. But I think it's the opposite then. For if you don't feel empathetic and you want to start practicing it, it's almost like you have to take down walls so that when someone else is expressing them, that you actually hear them, so that you can feel through what they're feeling. And it's not to take it on. You don't take it on. You just feel it. And I think what happens is you notice, oh, that hurts you. That hurt you. That suffering hurt you. Or that can go the other way. I think we're talking a lot about the painful stuff, but that excitement, wow, you had a great trip. And when you explain that trip to them, and you really, so maybe empathy is a lot about active listening. Because sometimes we're listening to someone and we're waiting to speak, or we're comparing as they're speaking, or we're being competitive. So connection is about actively listening, and so much that almost you can start to feel into what that experience led them to, or how they're feeling. And I think when you feel, then you have a better understanding of really what that person is telling you. So that's connection, because connection it's a lot deeper than just being in the same room as someone. We can go to the bar and say we connected with 10 people, but really we just sat with 10 people. I think that's quite a bit different than sitting through a circle of 10 people and sharing information and actively listening and working to understand one another. So that's more what connection leads to. Yeah.
I feel like, it's so automatic for us that there is that limit that I just want to be clear about how attainable it is for every person, even if you feel like it's something that scares you, and it's okay if it feels scary. It does feel scary sometimes to go with someone where they're at and maybe potentially feel real emotion connected to theirs, even if nothing happened to you at the time. Empathy does mean that we are going to experience some of our own feelings and maybe brought into some of our own experiences that could be a little uncomfortable to connect with.
That's maybe too where it becomes difficult, because maybe you're also hiding from emotions that you didn't want to feel, and when that person shares that emotion, then it brings up that emotion in you, because I do believe you can't actually feel something unless you felt it before. But I believe that we've all felt different things, whether we notice it or not, because I think at some point
it comes out in a different way, in a different level, but I think we all experience those. We can all feel the base emotions and sensitivities that lead to these these overall feelings.
And okay, so then the next question is then, what does everything look like when we start to do this? Well, we don't know. We don't know.
Good.
We don't know. But I imagine being more of a caring culture, we're not going to have the solutions. We're not going to have the blueprint for what the world looks like with this. We just know people are going to feel a lot better. So let's just start practicing.
Stop being scared.
Yeah.
That changing like this will be bad. That we'll lose something that we feel like has been making us strong. Lose that wall, that secrecy of your own experience, or that competition, or that place of judgment where you can come from above or outside of someone else's experiences, and you protect yourself in that way. And we have to release that fear, and because we're not really losing anything when we give up judgment, when we give up comparison, when we give up competition and pride and secrecy. I would like to abandon all that shit, if you ask me. Great, take it all away, because those are creating these negative experiences.
Did I send you the meme with the two aliens?
Yes.
So they're two aliens. One of them's like, the reason why is that humans don't use telepathy yet.
Why they don't use telepathy
is because they don't. And the other alien is like, and they're talking through their minds. They're like in little bubbles, and they're saying that it's because they're hiding too much. And it's a silly meme
to hide from each other.
It's a silly meme, but I think it's probably really close to the truth. The reason we can't transcend a lot of this stuff and move into higher levels of thinking and the ability to use more of our brain is because we guard it. We're guarded because maybe there's some icky stuff in there, but let's go through it together. Let's heal together.
Well, I think we should do our next episode on shame.
Okay.
Because I feel like what you're describing is shame. When we are ashamed of our own experience and we don't want to share it, so we keep it and we hide it. And then when other people have a similar experience, sometimes that exposes our own shame, and it feels yucky. And that's why maybe it's harder to meet them and say, this is okay what you're going through, and I'm totally comfortable with it, because you're not comfortable with your own experience.
No, you're so right. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's
a big, there's a lot of conversations we could have about, shame. So
guilt, shame,
all that.
I think that's that does make a lot of sense. So practicing to be more empathetic, tools to do that, I think, are kind of letting down those guards. I mean, if somebody is sharing experience that opens you up too much and that's too much for you, I mean, obviously that's not the time. That's not the place.
Don't put yourself in suffering.
Right. But I do think, little movement towards that is putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, taking a moment to step outside of our own lives, letting go of the need to hold on to our own experience, to compare, to be competitive, and then work in a different space of understanding for others, and that'll kind of start to get us there. We don't have to protect ourselves as much. If we all start to think more like developmentally, I feel like we won't have to protect ourselves as much, but we gotta get there.
Yeah.
We gotta get there.
It's going to take those of us who are ready to be more vulnerable and to be more brave and to be more aware and
step up to the plate. You're not alone. We're here with you. Yeah. We'll be here to root you on.
We're doing it.
I'm that's for sure.
Yeah. We're committed.
Yeah, I'm not going back.
Throw our pebbles in the water.
Please reach out to us if you have any questions about empathy. If we don't know, we'll find out. And we're always kind of developing, growing in our own ways. Lauren, a little bit about her. Right now, she's going to school, right? For psychology.
I'm almost done.
Yes. So soon she'll be out there maybe counseling some of us, and I think that we're always growing our direction to work to healing. I'm practicing yoga. Yep, I'll be going through a training program to be doing hypnotherapy soon, and a little bit more on the holistic side of psychoanalysis, things like that. So we're going to keep this going, and we're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep talking about tools to get us to those new places and make it through these shifts in consciousness and these chaotic times. So we're here for you.
Yes, we are, and we want to hear from you.
Yes, please. Send us something. Text us, DM us. Well, text us. I don't have my phone.
I'm not giving you my phone.
Email us.
Email, DM, comment, like, whatever.
Yes, please subscribe to the channel. We're still working on the whole social media thing, so hopefully we're doing that right to reach some new subscribers.
We're growing and we're learning, and there is a curve. So if you have any...
If we could just talk.
Empathy for us as we grow.
Yes, please.
Right. I'm Lauren Garrison.
I'm Sheena Dressel.
And we are Mindfeelz.